Hey, how you doing? This is Lee Gerstmann, and I'm going to do a record review for Nate Atchison. Happy birthday, buddy. I'm happy to do this review for you of an album that you suggested called Tragic Kingdom by the group No Doubt. I had heard their first album. I dug it. And I remember I was drunk and I was posting what I thought about it on Facebook, but I never actually did a YouTube review of one of their albums. And I had thought at first that maybe the album that I had heard was Tragic Kingdom, but then as I was listening to the songs, I realized no, that wasn't the album that I had heard. So I'm doing this with fresh ears. And I have to say, it's an interesting album. It's not the kind of album that I could just say 100% is one way or another. I had started to think that way, but then I realized there were songs that were like, okay, this is a little bit not like what I had thought, so it kept me on my toes. So anyway, before I begin, let me just say, overall, good album. I have a few criticisms about some of the songs, but not at all the same kind of criticisms that I would give to groups where I really don't like hardly anything they do. This group actually is very original, and the fact that they wrote all of their songs by themselves, and they seem to know exactly what kind of thing that they wanted to do. This to me is more of the kind of pure artistic album that I would prefer to hear, as opposed to listening to something where a group might need to have outside writers and outside stuff, and it might not always work. But anyway, I'll just get into the songs. The first song, Spiderwebs, well, this song is very busy, and parts of it I love and parts I think are disjointed, but it's kind of like an overture to the album because there's little bits of different styles to a lot of the songs on here. It is weird, so I do like that. So it's not my favorite on here, but I prefer hearing this by a long shot to a lot of crappy songs on so-called good albums. And then Excuse Me, Mister. This is the song I like the least. I think it is in the front of the album because the record company were trying to compete with the grunge scene, who this group is not. There's elements to this song I do like. I like the horn solo, and it's not a terrible song, but considering what is coming up later on the album, I think it was a bad choice to put this in the front of the album. Just a Girl. Okay, now this is a fun song, and I think it's where the album should have started on. It has energy and a fun beat and a great pop sensibility, and the words are eccentric and hot, in my opinion. This is very cool. And then Happy Now. This is like Joe Jackson on Ritalin, but it's not bad. They are definitely aware of groups like the Go-Go's and Sparks, and they are informed by their music, but they make their own original thing with it. It's not my favorite on here, but it is quirky, and I give it an 8. And then Different People. This is the kind of stuff they do that I love. I wish all the album could have been like this, but I understand that when a group is creative, they like to experiment with different styles. But this song is hot, and maybe someday I can dance with Gwen to this song. And then Hey You. Most of the songs on here, I talk about just the arrangement and the overall design, but this song has an infectious chorus and melody. Very good song. I wish I could write a melody this good. Hot song, right on. And then The Climb. This, oddly enough, is like what Led Zeppelin should have done on In Through the Outdoor. No Doubt is not a blues group, and retro is not their thing, or blues retro, but damn, they do a good job on here. This could have been on John Mayall's album Crusade. So, yeah. And then 16. Some moments in this song I do like, but the fast, heavy beat and thick bass doesn't work for me. Another concession to try to compete with grunge when they didn't need to. But other parts of the song suggest they did it just to prove that point, so I'm confused. And then Sunday Morning, really great song. And in fact, this is when I'd say from this point on, it could have been called the Hot Album. Because really, really good stuff. Anyway, Sunday Morning, really great song. It's like Joe King Carrasco and the Crowns. If you haven't heard them, you need to. Very fun song that is retro in the best power pop way. A cool, interesting combination of Tex-Mex and ska in a way I've never heard before, but I love. Great song. And then Don't Speak. Probably my very favorite song on here. I simply love it. It's almost hard to believe this group wrote all their own material. This is fantastic. Very, very good song. I want to go to New York and take a dip in the pool with a great woman while hearing this song. Maybe one of these decades. And then You Can Do It. Another fantastic song. I wish I could be KC and his whole Sunshine Band. Perfectly done. I love this stuff. Hardly anybody else does it even close to this good. Swing Out Sister is an exception. If you haven't heard them, I suggest you do so. Really, really hot stuff. And then World Go Round. A unique blend of ska and country in a way I would not have thought was possible, but it works totally. A great song. This is what I'd play for my family so they'd realize that exotic music doesn't mean listening to top 40 pop radio while eating cheese dip. This album is getting better and better. And then End It on this. This is also really great. If Lita Ford did Kiss Me Deadly more like Elton John than Lita Ford, it could sound like this, but it's really good. It is a quirky song, but that's not a bad thing. And then Tragic Kingdom, another favorite of mine. Fun music that is not at all like what I usually listen to, but when you do something perfect, I have to give notice of this. The last third of this album is some of the best recorded stuff I've heard. If not in my whole life, then at least in a very long time. Very cool stuff. So yeah, I don't know whether or not their albums after this is going to continue in the trend, but I would say if you take away the idea of, oh, this has to be this type of music or this type of music, and you just hear it, we're hearing people who, on their best work, are very focused on what they do and are very confident in doing the fun kind of sense of humor stuff that they do that's great. And I thank you, Nate, for suggesting this album because it's a breath of fresh air. I've been hearing some stuff that I'm like, oh my word, another thing like this. And this was like totally different, and it helped me get my mind off of that other boring yuck. So, anyway, happy birthday, and I hope that you have enjoyed this review as much as I enjoyed doing it. Cheers!